welcome back to JawnZone. I'm Christopher Jawn, and here with Andre Kitchens. How you doing, Andre?
Hey man, doing pretty good. I'm actually feeling very festive right now. So today I just pulled out the Hawaiian shirt, because I figured that I get into vacation mode. And then, with the Eagles and Sixers on vacation, I figured, hey, why not, just pull out the Hawaiian shirt and try to be a part of the spirit. How about you, man? How's everything in Denver?
Pretty good. The weather is amazing here in Colorado. We don't really have humidity. So, yeah, even when it gets to like 95 degrees, it's like really nice. Like you can keep your temperature controlled in your apartment super easily. Like all you got to do is just, either close your blinds or shut your windows, turn on the fan. But yeah, it's beautiful here and I'm loving the summer. And well, apparently we got some blockbuster news coming out of the Sixers camp. So we're going to break that down in a special July 4th coming up edition of JawnZone.
Okay.
First, I want to mention I'm wearing a Charles Barkley jersey. So I don't know if you guys can see that all right, but it's a throwback. One of our best favorite sons, even though he left us, but that happens. Speaking on people who left us, that kind of did happen. The one guy that I was afraid to leave, the guy who was our closer, he would always show up in the playoffs at least, no matter what team he's on. My cat's just meowing over there. So basically, Jimmy Butler, apparently we offered him more money than the Heat were going to offer him, and he turned us down. And the news is that he didn't really want to play for Brett Brown. So my personal video that I had by myself, I kind of called this. I said Brett Brown, and I gave the reasons why he was horrible. You can go watch that video because I'm not going to go over that shit again. He's horrible. But, we lost Jimmy Butler because of that. And I actually did not want to sign Tobias Harris to such a big deal. So what are your thoughts, at least so far, on the Jimmy Butler leaving us, Andre?
Well, Jimmy Butler, I think that, he's sort of a misnomer where he wants to be the man, but simultaneously not be the man at the same time. So I think that when you talk about Jimmy Butler and Brett Brown, I think that he was looking more so toward Brett Brown that actually take on a role of basically being a man. So I think that with him, he more so wants to be in that role, but he doesn't want to have the responsibility of taking that role. And I think that, for the most part, it was like fine for us the way it worked out because I would have loved for him to come back. But, with the information coming out now, you know what it is now. You know that, he's really for being with the team or for being under Brett Brown. So for the most part, I think that what he wants to do is that he really wants to just like go down Miami and live that lifestyle out for the rest of his career.
Yep. So I think he figured out like kind of when he was playing, there's not really going to be a super ideal position or place ever. So, so he was really all about the winning. But at this point, he kind of is like, you know what, like, I've tried to join a quasi super team in the Sixers and even on the Timberwolves. And if I go like to the Nets or the Lakers, who knows what kind of bullshit there would be. So like he kind of just wanted to be, the man in the city and not really have to worry about much. But it worked out kind of for us. We got back Josh Richardson, who's a pretty good player. Someone who's kind of – it seems like he's having the career path of Tobias Harris. He's rising up each year, never was an all-star so far, but I know maybe he's going to be a great replacement for J.J. Redick. And he's better at defense. He can play defense. Obviously, that's a step up for someone who can't play defense in J.J. Redick. And thank God J.J. Redick is gone. What are your thoughts on J.J. Redick leading us, Andre?
Well, because, like, as far as athletically speaking, I thought that J.J. Redick was a really I would say he was about average, smaller in size. He wasn't very quick. A lot of guys, like the reason why we had a lot of problems with the point guard and defending the point guards is because we didn't have someone at that level that could defend the point guards. And so point guards would go off on us.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like I said, man, I think I would have preferred also to have J.J. Redick, but, you know, at least for the depth, you know, because I like the depth and I like the veteran leadership. But honestly, at the age of, 37, 38 years old, you know, we were going to get much more out of him. I think that we knew who he was, and we found out who he was through so many opportunities. So, goodbye, J.J. Redick, and welcome, Josh Richardson.
Yep. And also, oh, sorry, what were we saying?
Oh, yeah. My thing is that with Butler, man, you know, just a simple question. Do you think he wants to win, or do you think he's just giving up on that?
I think literally he hit the breaking point on our team because he knows that if we had the proper coach, we would have won this year and we probably would have won next year. But without that, and with our ownership and, you know, GM dragging their feet on firing the guy who's shown absolutely nothing other than the sum of what his players can do without him, he kind of mentally decided, no, I can't afford to try to chase a championship anymore. Like, he's tried it over and over again, and this was his last contract. He stated that he wanted to retire at age 35. So this is probably it for him. You know, he wanted to find somewhere basically to retire more than to win. And I think that going from the Timberwolves, a place with 2 stars, I mean, they kind of stink, but they're stars. And then he came to us with 2 or 3 stars, and it just wasn't working. So, you know what I mean? There was just either a coaching problem, a chemistry problem, or just the players' heart weren't big enough. I mean, no matter where he went. So he just figured, you know what I mean? It's not worth chasing the ring. Let me chase happiness and a good place to live at instead.
Comfort. Now, Chris, I'm gonna be away for about 2 minutes because I got something in the oven.
Yep, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, I'll be right back.
Yeah, I'll take over for now. So I'd like to add on J.J. Redick. Andre briefly mentioned him. But basically, something that people don't really know, it's kind of shocking. J.J. Redick has actually been into the NBA playoffs every season of his career. Now, I mean, looking at that by itself sounds pretty good. Means that he was always on quasi-good teams. And then you look at the other statistic, every team that he was on has never gotten past the second round in the playoffs, ever. Ever. That means in his 13 tries of getting into the second round, he wasn't able to do anything. And not to mention, when you get to the second round, the defense, it steps up. It goes way higher. So that's where J.J. Redick just drops off a cliff. Any sort of defensive resistance whatsoever, he's not going to get a shut off. He's going to just pass it to someone else. It's going to be a waste of a play and probably turn into a turnover. Not to mention all those screens that Embiid set for him, it just wasted Embiid, who's not doing anything. It wasted Ben Simmons, who's standing in the corner not doing anything. And whoever else is there has to either set another screen for the guy to be involved in the play, or he's not going to be doing anything either. So those screens weren't really doing anything in the playoffs. He clearly was missing these things. You'd think that in 13 years of going to the second round most of the time, he would have had one good series where he just, had 4 or 5 threes every single game, and just never happened. And defensively, he isn't a defensive player. He can't play whatsoever. So I'm glad he's gone. But someone I think who could replace him more than adequately is Danny Green, who's still on the market, and I think he might be linked to Kawhi Leonard, but he brings 3 and D. We don't need 3 and need a wide open 3. It's called 3 and D for a reason. You can shoot the 3 and you can play defense. Now, if you can't do one of those 2 things, then you're not a complete player, and we need complete players, especially out of our starters. Look at these super teams now. You're going to ask J.J. Redick to go stop maybe Kawhi Leonard on the Lakers, or you're going to ask him to take a charge from LeBron James or Anthony Davis. It's not happening. So we stepped up our team considerably. So getting Danny Green would just complete that picture. We are pretty good though, and we added somebody else. Andre, who else is the other guy that we added? A little bit of a shock to a lot of people, but
Well, well, I would say so. The other guy that we had was Al Horford. So Al Horford, I mean, so he's about 33 years old. I mean, he was considered Joel Embiid's menace, but now they're team players, and I think that like that does like very well for its effect. That affects quadruple because like if you want to go into some philosophical things,
yeah,
Sun Tzu always said that you are 4 times more effective if you take your enemy's provisions than and use it for yourself, rather than just like destroy your enemy.
yeah.
So like basically we got Al Horford, who was a menace to Joel Embiid. I mean, basically like with him, the Celtics were always like kept in competition with us. But now that you see Danny Green's on the market and you see Al Horford is now part of the Sixers now, and he's a part of the process. The process is like, an infection that we want to take over the team until its completion. And so now that we have Al Horford and Danny Green's on the free agent market, most likely he's not going to resign with them. I think that, there's very, few obstacles stay in our way. I would say that. I would say because, the Raptors, most likely Kawhi's not going to return there. So, besides Kyle Lowry, they're not going to be really competition for us because, we came within a jump shot of actually beating them and going to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, and with a good coach, we would have gone to the finals, like, honestly.
Exactly.
Did you have anything else to add to that point? Because I got another thing on that, too.
Well, not so much about the coaching, but I would say that the reason why we didn't really go to the Eastern Conference Finals because we just did not have the depth. I think that, we had great fourth quarters, like, in the playoffs, but, Jimmy Butler was carrying that load a lot. But without the depth that we would need, we could not really go further into it. But what was your thoughts about it? What were your thoughts about it?
I was going to say a little bit on Horford. I think he's the most underrated player in the league. He's also always showed up in the playoffs. He was phenomenal in the 2 years ago when Boston went to the Eastern Conference Finals. He was on a roll. Last season, he was possibly like the only consistent player on the Celtics, even when all the shit was hitting the fan. And also going into the playoffs, he still was a really consistent player and just would show up, especially defensively. Now it just adds so much. So it's what you were saying before, the Sun Tzu art of war, adding your enemies' strategies. It's perfect. Great analogy, especially because you were saying it like phenomenally. Embiid had a kryptonite, and it was Al Horford. But now Al Horford is going to be teaching Embiid all the things that he was doing to stop him. So, he can be better defensively and offensively, learn how to get around that. Not to mention with Embiid's injury history, we need someone like Al Horford to be a starter caliber player to step in when he's injured. Plus, adding in one last thing on the Al Horford thing, now if our coach is still such an idiot that he wants to camp a big man out by the three-point line, he can do that with Al Horford, not Joel Embiid, hopefully. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if I saw Al Horford, Ben Simmons, and Joel Embiid at the three-point line, and our other two guys down by like the rim. But like, that's just how stupid he is of a guy. But Al Horford, he's a true grit player, and maybe even that last year he might not be still good, but still, I think he's a great chemistry player, better than wasting all that money on Tobias Harris. Like I said, Tobias Harris only had one season where he averaged more than 20 points. That was last season, and he kind of just disappeared in the playoffs. So 0 All-Stars. I don't know why we gave him so much money, but we definitely got a steal in Al Horford with the 9 or 112 million with all the incentives added to it.
Yeah, because with all that, I mean, the contract is most likely backloaded a lot. I mean, because like he does add a lot, but you kind of realize in the league at the age of 33, your time is like very, very limited. But I mean, hopefully, he becomes like a great depth player and a great role player for us.
Yeah, especially because we're taking away from Boston. He was their glue last year.
Yeah.
They're only getting back Kemba Walker. They also got rid of Terry Rozier for getting Kemba Walker. So they're down 2 really good players in the playoffs. So losing Al Horford means who's going to stop Embiid? Like, they don't even have a center, do they?
No, I don't think they do.
Oh, wait. They signed Taco Fall.
Tackle.
Yeah, there's this guy, Taco Fall. I think he's 7 foot 5 inches. 7 feet 5 inches tall. He's like one of the tallest NBA players ever. And I kind of wanted us to draft him or sign him as an undrafted free agent.
Yeah.
But Boston scooped him up. So hopefully they didn't figure out something we didn't know. But, I mean, I think looking across the league is what I want to talk about next. We're in great shape. So first we'll talk about the West real quick. We talked about it a tiny bit, but Anthony Davis got traded from the New Orleans Pelicans, and now he's going to the Lakers. So instead of him coming to the Knicks or the Celtics somewhere in the East where we would have to face him, even though Embiid is better, it's still not ideal facing a guy like that. Now that he joined the Lakers, other people want to go join the Lakers, but also that means that, I think more people will consider joining the Clippers too, because now they see LA as like an exciting prospective city. And since like the Lakers already got a big star, people could say, hey, well, if I want the Jimmy Butler treatment and I want to be the only big star, then I can go to the Clippers. There's like nobody there, but it's in LA. So it's a great thing.
Well, I think it's also a great thing, man, because like what it does is that, it creates, it like evens the power balance. And then it also, like I'll keep talking, every time I talk about NBA team, I always talk about depth or, the depth chart or the depth of players.
Mm-hmm.
But what it does is that when you sign like, these really, max contract players, super max players, like what you sacrifice is the depth on your team.
Yeah.
We see the Warriors this year where 2 of their guys were down, and honestly, they struggled. I mean, they struggled to beat the Rockets, and they just got demolished by the time they got to the Raptors. They only won 2 games. And meanwhile, a few months ago, we were saying that this team was unstoppable because of the starting 5. But now we know that, the starting 5 isn't everything.
Yeah.
And I think that's really a good movement for the league where, like now you need to have more of a balance. Like now you can't just like put a bunch of superstars on your team and dominate it.
Yeah, because they need at least 1 year to get a little bit more cap space to get some of these okay players. Because, I mean, if you look at the Heat with Ray Allen, he didn't join them in that first year that LeBron and everybody went. But once, they were able to pay a little bit more, I think he got paid $10 million over 2 years, something like that. He was like, okay, that's not the veterans minimum. I'll go there. So that's actually good for us looking at LeBron, who's on his last limbs with Anthony Davis. And then, I mean, if Kawhi goes there, that would be a really good team. But thankfully, that's the West. And because they went to the Lakers, Kawhi might go there. So we don't have to worry about him during the regular season or in the early parts of the playoffs. And then we talked about the Warriors. I'll just mention a few words. They're basically broken apart. They've got a lot of people injured. They lost good players. They did trade for D'Angelo Russell, but they still actually might flip him for a little bit more bench depth. But they're not really going to be as tough. And then is there really anybody else, unless Kawhi joins the Clippers, that would make, a storm to the finals in the West?
Well, because, there's also a possibility that Kawhi might even join the Houston Rockets. So, that's what Kawhi's doing right now. What Kawhi's doing right now is that he's trying to wait till the landscape of the league is shaped. And then, he's sitting back, man, because, a lot of players, if they want to go to the team, they'll visit teams personally. But what Kawhi Leonard's doing is that, he's just sending his representatives to the team.
Yeah.
And so basically it's him just sitting back, with the motherfucking cat in his lap. And he's just like, all right, what team I'm going to go to next? Because, like, I've won the NBA title on every single team I went to. So, like, now I'm just like, just let's say, for instance, like, I like Philly Cheesesteaks, I'll go to Philly. All right, I'm just joking about that.
Yeah.
But, like, for the most part, what he's going to do is he's just going to sit back and wait because any team in the NBA will want him.
Yeah. And I don't understand why the NBA and ESPN, Bleacher Report, every kind of publication has hyped up Kevin Durant over the free agency so much. But the last time I checked, Kawhi Leonard won on his own. He didn't need all these superstars around him to win. And he was the finals MVP on 2 different teams. So he can do it no matter what. And he's not injured. Kevin Durant isn't going to play next year. So it's not even like a certainty that he's going to come back 100%. So Kawhi should be considered the number 1 free agent, the guy everyone needs to get. So I completely agree with you. He's basically being his cyborg self right now. He's sitting and like analyzing, trying to detect any like problems. He's kind of smart. So that's actually why he kind of wanted to meet with Magic Johnson before he thinks about going to the Lakers, because he's going to ask him, hey, you quit like couple weeks ago. I know you might try to sell the team to me right now, but seriously, cyborg to cyborg, what happened? Like, so like, so if he gets like any inclination that it's not the greatest situation, he can be like, well, I'll take my finals winning self to another team and just win there. So like, who knows? Well, it's hard to really read a cyborg, but I mean, he's going to choose and be dangerous no matter where he goes. And I think Danny Green is going to follow him. I want us to get Danny Green, but who knows? So that's it pretty much for the West. I'm not really concerned if anyone goes to Houston, because if they go there, they're walking to a shitstorm of Chris Paul being really old and like James Harden being a ball hog. So, I mean,
no defense at all.
Exactly. So not really a threat. Let's move over to the Nets, actually, in the Eastern Conference. So I actually want to spell this out to Sixers fans. I know it looks like there's a new super team in town, like right next door and in the Atlantic division, but you do not have to fear. Like, this team does not look like it's actually going to be good. First of all, DeAndre Jordan, let's just throw his name out of the way because I haven't even heard about him. I thought he retired because he hasn't done shit in forever. So he's not a threat to us. So maybe he's just going to mend any fences that Kyrie and Durant have. Speaking of Kyrie, the guy has been injury prone. 2 seasons ago, he missed the playoffs completely and a lot of the seasons because of injuries. Every time he was the main guy on a team before LeBron got there, he was always injured and didn't finish the season. Not to mention, even when LeBron was there, being that bullet sponge, taking hits, Kyrie just really still got injured. And there was one finals where he was injured and wasn't able to play against the Warriors. So, like, he's an injury-prone player. He has a toxic personality. Kevin Durant is technically injury-prone, being injured, who's not going to play next year. And he has a toxic personality. Both these guys are like, oh, I'm going to leave my team and go somewhere else, and it's going to be great. And both of them had pretty, decent success there. And then they're like, oh, I don't like it here. I'm going to go find another place. Like, how's that going to work out? They didn't fix what the problem is. And the problem is their personalities, their mentalities.
Well, because I think that the NBA is like, oh, wait, Christian, audio. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I think that NBA, I think that the NBA is becoming more so a league of journeymen. Yeah. So when you look at technical. Oh yeah, okay, yeah, I froze up a little bit, but when we look at the NBA now, the players have so much control over the league. From a player personnel perspective, that they're picking places based on where you want to live, and a lot of people are just moving to places hey, this has a great market, for endorsements, or I really like the weather here, and so I mean, because of their control, I think that a lot of these players, like, they want to more so be celebrities than players now.
Yeah.
And it's life after the NBA.
But at the same time, they're completely miserable. Like, that's what Charles Barkley was saying all the past couple of seasons. Like, Kevin Durant and Kyrie and people like that. He's never seen star athletes so miserable in his entire life, just talking about regular things in the season. And some of that, actually, a lot of that has to do with the media. And let me tell you, the media in New York is a lot bigger than in Cleveland. And it's a lot bigger even than in, like, Golden State area, like Oakland. Like, this is New York we're talking about. This is like the broadcast center to the rest of the world. That's what New York kind of does. It puts you on that map. So, like, I mean, yeah, they're not really going to be that big of a threat. They wasted a lot of money on those 2 injury-prone players, and how else are they going to fill out, like, the rest of their roster? Like, they're not – if we can play good, like, strategy against them, they shouldn't be a problem at all. Especially, like, once Kevin Durant comes back, he's going to have trouble adjusting, and Kyrie is going to have trouble adjusting to playing with him because they're not, like, compatible mentally. They both want to be the guy, and they both want to have the ball in their hands. So I don't think that's going to work out.
So, I mean, do you think that Kyrie and DeAndre Jordan would be like the, you know, so like the Carmelo Anthony and Amari Stoudemire for the Knicks situation? It's like that's what I'm saying.
Well, the thing is, Carmelo was more healthy than Kyrie, so even in his older years. But yeah, like DeAndre Jordan is already past the level of Stoudemire. He's like worse than bad Stoudemire. Like, who's their center? Like, honestly, who's their center? They signed a center, and he's not gonna be good. So why did they sign the guy? I don't get it. But it's just because even though we're shitting on the Nets, like, that is the team that the Knicks were dying to get. Like, the Knicks, they've been announcing it for the past year. They put Kevin Durant in one of their, like, announcement flyers by accident. They said that, oh, we don't have any problem getting any stars to come play with us. We're going to have a great summer, and Knicks fans are going to be rejuvenated. They're basically talking about, we're going to get the #1 overall pick. We're going to get Zion. And then they're saying, like, oh, we might even trade for Anthony Davis. None of it. Julius Randle. Do you even know who Julius Randle is, Andre?
Hey, Julius Randle was somebody at one point, but I think that he went to the Bermuda Triangle and disappeared off the net.
Yeah. No,
I mean, I don't know what the hell happened. Because, like, he was, like, really touted back when he was drafted as, like, you know, I mean, top 3. I mean, he had a lot of comparisons to pre-injury Derrick Rose.
Yeah. Here's the thing. For rookies, and this happens to quarterbacks in the NFL a lot, they have a pretty decent year for rookies, but that bar is set so low. So once people are like, oh, you threw for like 2,500 yards and like 20 touchdowns, and people are like, hey, like, that's a pretty good start. If you continue on that path, you'll be great quarterback, you know, but they just stay at that level. That's basically what happened. Like, he had a great rookie season, but that's not a great season by any means in a regular NBA, like, stretch. So, like, he never moved past that, and he was all hype that didn't really work out. So I think he was on the Pelicans, then he went to the Lakers, or maybe it was vice versa. So they're not really a problem. And then the Miami Heat, they're not really a problem. The Celtics, they just lost Terry Rozier. Their locker room was torn apart by Kyrie. Kemba Walker is really small, and that reason Charlotte didn't want to pay him is because he might get injured because he's so small. Mm-hmm. I mean, we have such a big team. They're not going to be able to get a shot off against us, the Celtics. And it's going to be amazing to hear from Al Horford exactly what the other side is thinking, how to beat them, and everything like that. So, I mean, other than maybe the Bucks, who do you view as a threat to the Sixers?
Well, so, like, the only team other than Bucks I could view as a threat to the Sixers, I would say will probably be still, you know, if you want to include this in there, like the Raptors. I mean, even though Kawhi is leaving, I'm saying they still got Siakam, they still got Lowry, I mean, and then Nick Nurse is actually a pretty good coach. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And
Yeah.
like coaching is coming back to the league. So I think that, Kawhi Leonard was a great piece. But besides that, I think that, with his coaching ability, I think Nurse can really figure out something.
Yeah.
And then, hell, I mean, they might even get or attract like maybe a good player to their team. Be like, hey, you want to be the next Kawhi Leonard, you want to be someone to bring the first second NBA championship to the country of Canada.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Even if Kawhi doesn't go there, they might be able to trade for like a semi-star, kind of like a Chris Paul or someone like that.
Yeah.
But like also, I was just thinking, if Victor Oladipo, who got injured in the middle of last season on the Pacers, comes back and he's still amazing, then the Pacers might be an unexpected team that give people trouble because there's something about, I mean, Larry Bird is in charge of the organization, I feel like, but like Indianapolis and Indiana are kind of known as a basketball town and a basketball like state. So some of the brilliant minds of every generation have come from that area or played in that area. So there's just something about that area where they either know how to write coaches to pick, they know the undervalued players to pick up. Like no one thought Oladipo was going to be Oladipo, or else they would have taken him like in the top 3. So like honestly, the Pacers, who knows? Maybe they can come back. I mean, I don't really fear the Pistons. They signed Derrick Rose, and then they have Blake Griffin, and I forget who else, but they don't really scare me. So
bunch of irrelevance.
Yeah,
a bunch of irrelevance that they did.
Yeah.
I mean, because like, I mean, Blake Griffin, Clippers Blake Griffin's great.
Yeah.
I'm saying, but I think that after they started getting a little good, they started to get a little bit more arrogant. I'm saying, like, they started to really, like, try to, like, project the image of an elite team. I think that it fell flat on its face because, like, they started to get away from their roots. And I say that, like, I'm talking about musical artists, but, like, they figured that they were selling more tickets, so it became less risky. And then that's how that whole thing unfolded, where, they couldn't really attract, like, stars there because, like, their team just became terrible again.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny about the Clippers because, like, with the Clippers, they actually had a fan named Clipper D who was, like, on the sideline for every game. But then as soon as they started doing better and all that, they really came down on them. And then now they're shit again. So now, like, they don't be begging for them back.
Well, who knows? Maybe Kawhi would join them and change the fortunes of the franchise. I wouldn't be surprised at that at all.
Yeah, I won't be surprised.
We had some great Sixers talk and around the league talk for the NBA. Now I want to focus our attention on the Eagles situation. So not a lot of things happening in the Eagles offseason right now, which is great news. You don't want to hear about something random happening to your team because more often than not, it's some player who developed some injury or blew out something. So nothing like that is happening, thank God, so far. But we do want to turn our attention to our conference and possible seeding problems. So what do I mean by that? We're fighting for the first seed. We're not just trying to win our division. We want home field locked up through the playoffs. So, I mean, last season didn't really go according to plan. We got into a wild card, and maybe that hurt us playing an extra game. Who knows what would happen if we had an extra week off just to rest our players, dealing with all those injuries, like Jesus. So who knows, what's his name? Brandon Brooks' Achilles might not have been blown out.
Oh, yeah.
We'll see. So looking at the top of the conference, we also got up the strength of schedule. So we're going to go over a couple of the tougher teams, and then we're going to start listing some of the teams we think might pop up, because every single year there's teams that stink, and then the next year they become good, and vice versa. So looking at the New Orleans Saints, they were ranked the number 1 seed last year, and arguably should have been in the Super Bowl. Arguably also should have lost to us if Brandon Brooks' injury didn't happen. But they look like they're pretty competent. They're getting one of their best wide receivers back from injury. who wasn't playing during the playoffs for them. So
Yes.
they were 13-3 last year. Andre, how do you see them doing next year? Oh, is Andre out? We having some? Yeah, I think we're having some technical difficulties. Well, I'm just gonna look up, and right now it is listed as the 22nd hardest strength of schedule. So what does that mean? There are 21 teams that have an easier schedule than the Saints. Something that is a little off this year, the whole strength of schedule for all of these teams. So, for instance, we mentioned it before, but the New England Patriots, of all the playoff teams, have the easiest schedule in the league, which is just absurd. And tied with them are actually the Los Angeles Rams. But, Andre, I was just asking you, actually, what do you think with the New Orleans Saints having the 22nd hardest schedule, which means there's 21 teams with an easier schedule. No, 21 teams with a harder schedule. Yeah. So how do you think they're going to do next year?
Well, I think that, with the 26, I think that they'll do great, man. I think that they're one of the teams in the NFC that we'll definitely have to worry about. And I'm saying worry in the sense that, they are a threat. We can beat them. But, with their schedule, it's not going to be easy for us to get to #1 seed.
No.
So, not to mention, they got Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara. They have a very good listed offense on paper.
Yep.
But, I guess, the thing that we could really hope for is, really the arm strength and health of Drew Brees. Because, you actually see in the past seasons his arm strength and the deep ball, he's been declining in that.
Yeah.
And with our upgraded pass rush with, Jackson, I said we got an upgraded pass rush, and I think that with that, I think that we'll be able to get after him better. Because if you see Drew Brees when he sits back in the pocket, he's not a very tall guy. Mm-hmm. And so what he'll do is that he'll actually go off to the side a little bit to see over his offensive line.
Yeah.
And then once he does that, he'll throw a dart. But I think with our edge rushers, we could definitely close off that gap and then get after them.
Yeah.
But I think overall they will have a good team, and I think that we will see them in the playoffs at one point or another.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll be hungry and get that revenge. So I'm kind of on the same thinking as you. But I do think that after such a crushing loss, it's hard mentally to get back to the same place you were. So, it's just really tough. The 2 seasons ago, they lost to that Minnesota Miracle play. Yeah. Then last season, they lost in this, ref debacle thing. So, if you think about it, especially in that division, they haven't had the same leader of the division in the past couple of, I think, years. Maybe even it's been over 10 years. They're kind of like the NFC East, where another team just rises up. This may be the year that breaks that, but I do think they are going to step back a tiny bit. So maybe not from their division. I don't see the Buccaneers really getting their shit together, even with Bruce Arians really fast. They don't have a quarterback for that. The Carolina Panthers, they can't really seem to keep Cam Newton healthy. But maybe the Atlanta Falcons will get better. But, who knows? They're going to play some teams that they might lose to. We definitely can't afford to lose to any gimme teams. But I think the Saints will. So, I can see them getting only, 11-5. So, for playoff seeding's sake, that's, either the 3rd or 2nd seed usually. Unless you're the New England Patriots and you play in such a shit conference, you know what I mean? You end up in the 2nd seed. But so anyway, that's what we think for the New Orleans Saints. Now, right below them is the Los Angeles Rams, a team that we've beaten the past 2 times we played them. And, pretty easily. They didn't show up for shit in the Super Bowl. Their running back looks like they way overpaid an injured player. They lost Ndamukong Suh. They don't look like they're going to have such an easy schedule again either, even though they are tied with the Patriots for the 2nd easiest schedule in the league. And for all playoff teams, they do have the easiest schedule in the league.
Well,
But
because I was
just going to add, that's going to change because, like, if you look at the Cardinals, they got a rookie head coach and a rookie quarterback that's actually pretty good. So there's no way they're going to finish 3-13 again. The same thing with they were playing last season with Sam Bradford and Josh Rosen, not getting the job done with those two. So also the 49ers had a freak injury to their quarterback, Jimmy Garoppolo. So expecting them to basically tank for another season is kind of unreasonable. So they're going to come back and they'll get more wins there too. So the Rams, I at least have them stepping back. What about you, Andre?
Well, yeah, I mean, because like the thing about the Rams is that like they're a great team on paper. I mean, they have Pro Bowls on all levels of defense. I mean, Marcus Peters, Aaron Donald. I mean, he's probably like maybe the best defensive tackle in the league. Mm-hmm. But the thing is that they're so great on paper, but when it comes down to the games, like they don't really show up too much.
Yeah, I noticed that, especially with good opponents.
Yeah.
They demolish the easy ones, but Jared Goff, maybe it's Jared Goff, dude, because the defense did show up during the Super Bowl. They kept Tom Brady in check to one of the worst games of his entire career, let alone a Super Bowl. I mean, his first Super Bowl was garbage, but I mean, they kept him to 13 points. If you keep a team to 13 points in the Super Bowl, you're expected to win that. But Jared Goff couldn't do anything because he's like a little boy.
Well, I mean, because like Jared, you call him Jared Goff, now I call him Jared Soft.
Yeah.
Because I mean, he's like the pretty boy quarterback. Like when things are going great for him, like he get on a roll.
He's like sunshine.
Yeah, sunshine to fucking remember the Titans, but like, but like when things, when he faces a little adversity, I mean, like you put a little pressure on him, or I'm saying like he's not getting the running game going. You kind of see, him just like his skills diminish throughout the game. Maybe he becomes demoralized. Maybe it's like the Los Angeles weather there that kind of makes him like not really struggle through that. But I think for the most part, man, we haven't really seen who Jared Goff really is. I mean, he did great last year. I mean, he was doing MVP numbers. But I think the way you see what a quarterback really is that you see them in adversity. He hasn't let the fourth quarter come back. His team didn't go on a losing streak, and he had to rally them up. And anytime there was like any pressure, or anytime he faced a team that needed to win, like the Eagles last year, he folded. I mean, so Jared Goff, I don't really have faith. Like I think that he's great when the team around him is doing well, but like when people, when I don't think he's a guy that could really like motivate the offense, and that's what I think.
Yeah, I think he's actually like a Tony Romo, except Tony Romo never had that kind of great defense.
Yeah, that's true.
Tony Romo never played under an offensive, like someone who's considered pretty good offensively as a coach. You know what I mean? Like he's always had to drum along with like crappy coaches and shit like that. Yeah. But when it comes to the big moment, what happens to him? He just like disappears. So whatever. That's good for us.
Yeah.
So, you feel like they're going to step back too? What do you think their record's going to be?
I mean, I say they're going to step back. I mean, but with the NFC West being weak right now, I don't think the 49ers are in rebuilding mode. The Cardinals are in rebuilding mode. And then the Seattle Seahawks, I think that the Seattle Seahawks will actually win the division this year. Yeah. So I do see them as a wild card team. Mm-hmm. I see them as a wild card team. I think that Seattle will actually win the division this year because, like, they are a, battle-proven team. And they are more consistent than, the Browns right now. The Browns have the best talent in that division, but I believe that the Seahawks will win the West this year.
Yeah, I actually got an agreement on that with you. So, we're going to talk about the Seahawks in a tiny bit, but if we're going to just call it out right now, I do have the Hawks winning the division, and they're the team that gives us the most shit. So we'll get to them in a second. So next up is the Chicago Bears. They're coming off a fresh 12-4 season, bursting into the playoffs, and then we beat them. even though they had the number one defense, but it doesn't seem like we have a problem with number one defenses. So what do you think they're going to do next year?
Well, I mean, the way I think they will do next year is that, one, they'll be above a wild card team. So they won't be a wild card team. Mm-hmm. So what they'll do is that I think they'll do good, man. I think they'll have over 10 wins overall. And I think, Trubisky, he's only going to develop more and more. He's just definitely going to develop that fade route. Mm-hmm. But, I'm not sure about their offense. I think that he just doesn't have the weapons around him yet to be successful. Mm-hmm. But, their defense, they'll come back strong. But we have no problems with that defense, or any defense that's considered number one, because we have great, offensive minds on our team. But I think that, they'll be within the top 4 seeds. I think they'll win the NFC North again. The Vikings aren't really, they aren't really a threat. I mean, right now, they're going to rebuild more soon. And then you have the Packers. I mean, the Packers, you hear a lot of things about Aaron Rodgers and, his ego, and then also his relationship with the coaches. And then another team in the NFC North would be, Packers. Lions. Yeah, the Lions. Yeah. The Lions aren't a threat. I mean, they haven't been a threat in, how long?
No.
Maybe, almost a decade.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
They had Jim Schwartz, and they made one playoff. I think they were 10-6.
Yeah.
Calvin Johnson put up over 300 yards, but they still lost. Oh, yeah, they also lost to the Cowgirls in a really bullshit game. They didn't call, a pass interference, and then their tight end should have caught a first down in the fourth quarter, but the refs didn't see it or whatever, but whatever. So, I got to disagree with you a little bit. So they actually are tied with the Kansas City Chiefs for the 5th hardest schedule in the league. And something that you noticed, especially recently, it's very irregular for a team to finish with the number one defense 2 years in a row, because everyone's just focusing on trying to figure out how to beat them. Not to mention, they lost their defensive coordinator. I don't think that's been talked about enough. Yeah, they have Khalil Mack, but that defensive coordinator, I think, was distracted by the fact that he was going to be leaving and become the head coach of the Broncos. So when we played them, Khalil Mack didn't do shit in the playoffs. So, I think with the tough schedule, with everybody trying to figure out their defense, and with a quarterback who isn't used to this kind of success, that they have a regression year. I can even see them going as low as 6-10 this year. And that's not to say that they're such a shit team. Maybe things bounce the wrong way, which happens to everybody. But honestly, it's really hard to maintain a defensive-based team for multiple years. You have to have some semblance of an offense to be able to, at least keep the coaches on the other team worried about or spending any time figuring them out. So that's our opinions on the Bears. Moving on, we're not going to talk about the Cowgirls because we spent enough time already talking about them.
Yeah, shitting on them.
So we'll talk about the Seahawks then.
Yeah, the Seahawks.
This team, I feel like we're going to lose to them. They have, looking up their strength of schedule. Oh, they're right next to us in terms of strength of schedule. They're slightly harder than us by a tie.
Okay.
One of the teams they're going to face tied last year. So they have the 25th hardest schedule. We have the 26th. So that's not really good for us in terms of, facing them. So how do you feel they're going to do this year?
Well, I mean, I think that the Seahawks they're one of those teams that I never see as a 14-win team, Yeah. They're not a regular season team to me.
Yeah.
They're not going to put up huge offensive numbers, obviously. Uh-huh. I mean, their defense has always been great. Mm-hmm. I mean, and they got the twins, Shaquille Griffin, and Shaquem.
Yep.
And those guys are athletic monsters, bro.
Mm-hmm.
But the way I feel about them is that they won't be a wild card, but they'll probably be the 4th seed, 3rd or 4th seed this year. Mm-hmm. But if they get in the playoffs, they're dangerous, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Pete Carroll, he is a great defensive mastermind, you know. And you don't see a lot of coaches nowadays that are the head coach of a team, but, you know, they also emphasize defense. I mean, a lot of the head coaches in the league are more so offensively minded. You know, and that's what you get. But, you know, their defense and their schemes and, you know, the consistency of their team is like the most scary. So I think that, you know, out of all the teams in the NFC, I probably like actually fear them the most.
Definitely.
You know?
The playoffs, I fear them the most by far. Yeah. And that stadium they have is pretty intimidating too.
Yeah.
With the weather, apparently the weather of like their wind is absurd. So a lot of quarterbacks struggle throwing in that wind and adjusting to the wind. So, you know, the defense will do better for their team.
Well,
so,
because
yeah,
my bad. Yeah, it's because like, and then on top of that, man, you know, it's not just like, I mean, the weather. It's also the way that their stadium's situated. I mean, because like a lot of like, you know, NFL stadiums are going more to the open concept stadium where you can sit more people at, and it's easier to install other infrastructure. But, you know, the Seahawks have this classic bowl stadium where the wind can whip around. And then on top of that, like the crowd noise is more focused. So, like, remember that, you know, Beast Mode run back in 2012?
Yeah.
They said that there was a 0.5 on the Richter scale at the stadium for an earthquake. It was an earthquake.
Yeah, basically.
And so, like, that's a force. That stadium is like a force of nature. It's more than just a place where you sit at and watch the team. So, like, if you have home field advantage, they're dangerous. Yeah.
All right. So I really agree with you. You know, they're probably going to win the division. Whatever the Rams get, they're going to get one win more. So they're going to get either an 11-5 record or a 12-4 record, whatever needs to be done to win that division. Because you know, well, it's going to be a little tougher. But I think a lot of their easy schedule is coming from the rest of the conference. You know, not really in the division as well. Yeah. So whenever you're, I don't know, facing us and we're worried about you and we have a really good team, that doesn't really mean you're a bad team. You're pretty good. So that's like the one team in the playoffs that we got to worry about. They don't really see – we thought that last year they were going to step back because they lost so many defensive players, but they didn't. It's scary. It's not like something that's supposed to happen, you know? So that's not like most ideal for us. So that's one we think is going to be a big problem. So the next playoff team is us, actually, and that wraps up the playoff teams in the conference. So we'll bring our subject to one or two last things. Andre, of the teams that didn't make the playoffs last year in the NFC, who do you think is going to make the playoffs?
All right, so of the teams that didn't make the playoff last year, for instance, like, so – I wasn't actually prepared for it. So I would say, you know what, Falcons.
That's a safe bet because, you know, we mentioned earlier how that division has a new winner seemingly every year. They went almost back-to-back, like, and won 2 Super Bowls, but they didn't. They lost them both. But it wasn't that long ago. Carolina Panthers won the Super Bowl, and then the following year, the Atlanta Falcons won the Super Bowl. And then this past year, the Saints were almost in the Super Bowl. So that's a really strong conference. So I can see that, yeah. For me, I actually am going to go a little controversial. I think the Foreskins are going to be in the playoffs this year.
Foreskins.
Yeah, because if you think about it, they had 7-9 last year, and that's after Alex Smith, like, basically chopped off his leg. So, you know, we had trouble sort of against them. And then no one's going to really be expecting them. They got a rookie quarterback, kind of like the RG3 situation. So this is going to be a really good year for their rookie quarterback. I think he probably will have a sophomore slump, but then he'll be good again. So this is the year where their defense, like, takes it to another level because they believe in their quarterback for the first time in a while. So I think they're probably going to make the playoffs. I'm not too sure about the Panthers, I don't really know. The Vikings, for some reason, as long as Kirk Cousins is there, I'm not really worried about them. But the Packers, I think, is another popular choice for people to naturally assume Aaron Rodgers is going to make your team go to the playoffs.
Well, I think that Aaron Rodgers, I think that a big part of his game was his ability to run outside the pocket.
Yeah.
And, like, what I'm saying about that is that, like, you got running quarterbacks, and then you have quarterbacks that can run. So a running quarterback would be someone who depends on that, like a Michael Vick, or even to a certain extent, like a Cam Newton, who that their running lanes open up for their passing game. But with Aaron Rodgers, I think that with injuries the last few years to his shoulder and also his legs, I think that for the most part, his games will be diminished a little bit. So, I mean, I don't know if they'll make the playoffs. Like anything, they'll probably just squeak into the playoffs. That's what I think.
Yeah, well, I already predicted that the Bears were going to take such a big step back. Obviously, someone in the division has to step up. So it might just be them. They might get a 10-6 record, just based on the fact that, I mean, we're kind of in a down age of quarterbacks. All the good ones seemingly either get injured or something happens to their team that derails them. Like, look at how many years Drew Brees wasn't in the playoffs, even though he was putting up 5,000 yards every year. So, same thing Aaron Rodgers. He got 6-9-1 because his team can't really keep him healthy, and they're losing players. Their defense hasn't been right in years.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's why the Patriots just waltz into the Super Bowl every year. In addition to having, the easiest schedule, all the best quarterbacks are either just stifled or have retired or just suck now. Look at Eli Manning as a shell of his former self. Philip Rivers, I mean, people keep on saying he gets better every year, and maybe his numbers get better every year, but what the hell has he ever done with that? Ever. The guy is never performed good at all. Every single time. He's played Tom Brady, I think it was 9 times or 11 times, and he's never beaten him. And then when it comes to Ben Roethlisberger, he's played him I think 11 times, and he's only won twice. Shit like that. How are you just that mediocre when you come to play them? It's just, I think, a mental thing too. They just think of them as this unbeatable force, and we just crammed it down their throat, and that's how we won. So you got to do that.
Another thing I might bring up in the NFC that might go to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Our team is the 49ers. But that always depends on the health of Jimmy Garoppolo.
I actually would think that the Cardinals have a better shot.
The Cardinals are in the beginning stages of rebuilding mode.
Sort of, because if you look at some of the teams that get a mobile quarterback, they RG3. Their team was shit when they got him, and then he came in and turned them into a winner. And then kind of happened the same thing with Russell Wilson. But if you look at these mobile quarterbacks, they actually have a better first year than most other quarterbacks that are coming in. So yeah, and especially with the 49ers, everyone keeps on saying they're really good, but what is making them good? Name their number one wide receiver.
I mean, right now, so their number one wide receiver.
Yeah. Can you name?
Are you saying in terms of stats, or are you saying in terms of
for the next season, who's going to be their number one option?
I mean, because I think their number one option might be Marquise Goodwin.
Okay, so that team is not offensively equipped to make the playoffs.
Because he's good.
Think about it. Everyone thinks Jimmy Garoppolo is going to come and save the day, and he's throwing to Marquise Goodwin, and they have the most expensive fullback in history. They're paying $22 million in total salary to a fullback, and apparently they're worse when he's on the field. They average less yards per carry when he's on the field. And they have 3 running backs. One they just paid Tevin Coleman, who's always been a career backup. Their offense isn't really good. Now
they also have Debo. I say Debo Samuel. It's Debo, man. I mean, Debo Samuel, man, he's coming out of South Carolina right now, man. But
is he a rookie?
Yeah. Yeah, new rookie they got, man.
you can't count on a rookie second round pick to be like a star.
Okay. Yeah, I see what you mean.
You know what I mean? He's gonna at least take half the season to turn up. Like T.O. took 3 seasons before he got over 1,000 yards. And then so like if you look at that team, even defensively, do you really know anyone on that team of defense?
Well, so like 49ers team on defense, because like I know last year they traded Eric Reed. Well, they didn't trade Eric Reed. They let him Bell, yeah. But on defense, I think they got someone promising.
They drafted Joey Bosa's brother, Nick Bosa.
Nick Bosa. Okay.
But Nick Bosa really didn't play last year because of injuries. Like he has a big injury history. So no really production on that. And also Joey Bosa has kind of been injured when he was on the Chargers a lot too.
Yeah. I would say DeForest Buckner might be the best man on the tackle line.
I mean, that was a name of a guy coming out of college that I was like, he's from Oregon. He looks like a beast. And, he looks like he's going to turn into a beast. And I think last season he finally showed up. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, let's look up, his stats from last season.
Okay, so, I
got it right here, actually.
Oh, yeah, because, DeForest, Buckner, he, defensive
12 sacks.
Yeah, 12 sacks.
Defensive lineman, 12 sacks. That's amazing, actually.
Yeah, it's amazing, especially for a defensive lineman. I mean, defensive ends are the ones who get stats, man. I mean, because when you talk about defensive tackle, they're not big stat guys, man. They're really rated by how much they could disrupt the play.
Yeah.
But they're not big in stats on tackles, sacks, or defensive measurements. So,
but my alternative to that is if you look at the next highest sack total, it's 5.5. They had 37 sacks last year. That's nothing. An average team gets 45 to 55 sacks. They did horrible. Basically, there's nobody there. Except for DeForest Buckner. But who's their cornerbacks? Do you know any of their cornerbacks or the safeties?
I mean, because so when you talk about cornerbacks, a lot of cornerbacks who are really, interception hogs or, they're very flamboyant. They get a lot of attention, but their cornerbacks are, Tim Harris. I think that he's a good pickup. He doesn't get the stats just like DeForest Buckner, but then you also got Dante Johnson. And I think that Dante Johnson does have the measurables to be a good, maybe, outside corner. I mean, guy's about 6'2", 200 pounds. So, and he really does have a good, combination of size and speed. Because most cornerbacks in the league are maybe between 5'10" and 6 feet tall, but that's somebody that you will put on, a tall receiver or a very a more so physical receiver.
Mm-hmm. Well, you want to know how many interceptions they got last year?
How many interceptions did they get last year?
The 49ers accumulated 2 interceptions last year.
Damn. I mean, but is that really the measurement? I mean,
kind of. It's not everything, but when you add all these numbers together, you get the picture of a team that has one good player on both sides of the ball. What are they going to do? How are they going to turn that into a good team?
The thing about it last year was that, I mean, although they only had 2, interceptions, they actually were near the top 10 in the league for pass defense.
Well, that's also because they got thrown on so much. If you look at their defense, all right, I'm looking at their offense. Their defense, they gave up the 28th most points in the league.
Okay.
So, there's only a couple more teams that gave them more points per game. That's a pretty bad statistic. So, I don't really think they're going to make the playoffs. But, I mean, it's a tough way to project who's going to make it.
Yeah.
But we'll probably go over the Western or the AFC conference next time, and might see one of these teams in the Super Bowl. I kind of do hope if we went to the Super Bowl again, I wouldn't be opposed to playing the Patriots again.
Again, yeah.
Yeah, like we showed them who's boss. Our offense put up numbers on them, no problem. And do you think we're going to give it like that shitty of performances like Jared Goff and Sean McVay? Like Sean McVay was calling Bill Belichick literally after every single game.
Yeah.
You might as well say Bill Belichick had his goddamn playbook. Like, what are you doing? This is supposed to be your like biggest enemy. And people are calling you a guru. Why are you calling up someone else like a fanboy after every week and just telling them your day? Like, what is wrong with you? You know what I mean?
McVay is like a very young coach. And I think that when Bill Belichick was like first started coaching the Patriots, I mean, what was it? Sean McVay's like 35 years old.
Something.
So when he first like when Bill Belichick started coaching the Patriots, Sean McVay was a teenager. Yeah, I mean, so he at that point he was playing, Madden. Like that's the only football coaching involvement that he has. Like maybe, it was just like so surreal for him that before I got into the league, I was playing with this guy's team on Madden. Like I was playing with Tom Brady on Madden. And it's hard for him to get past that point.
Yeah, but that's what good coaches need to do. Like I never understand why a bunch of coaches are like sucking up to Bill Belichick as soon as they get into the league and stuff. It's like this guy is your enemy. He's going to use any information about you to destroy you. He's literally not your friend. He's just calling you up to try to see if he can get some edge or advantage from you. In fact, he might actually not even be that great of a coach. He just weaseled information out of people after he already got caught cheating. Let me talk about that for a second. How great of a coach do you need to be if you know the other team's damn plays? Like you know what's coming. You can specifically design your plays to stop that. And people are like, oh, if you're good enough, you should be able to beat them. It's like, no, that's not how football works. This is a strategy-based game. And everybody has they need to be in a specific place. If someone knows where you're going to be, that play isn't going to work. It doesn't matter how good you are. Like, it's not fair. There's a goddamn reason it's against the rules. If it weren't, then it wouldn't be a problem. But it is. So all the people need to stop saying, everybody was doing it. It's not a big deal. It's like the guy got caught doing it over and over again. Clearly he's doing it for a reason. He's not doing it for, good luck. You know what I mean? That's not why he's doing it. He's doing it to get a competitive advantage, which is actually unfair. So that he's an asshole. You can't trust that guy. I remember he actually got Nick Saban to mosey up to Rex Ryan, and then he got Rex Ryan to give Nick Saban his defensive playbook. Nick Saban gave that playbook right to Bill Belichick. His name. Yeah. And seriously, that's when Rex Ryan started sucking. So there's no reason why he should be that close with anybody, especially not Belichick or his confidants. So that's what I got to say about that. He's an asshole. We're not sponsored by anybody, but if Bill Belichick came here and said he wants to sponsor me, I would say I don't work with cheaters.
Well, yeah. Well, I guess in the spirit of sponsorship, I guess we'll have to sponsor petroleum jelly because that's what Bill Belichick puts on his dick when he wants to fuck somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah. No lube.
Thank you, the owner of the New York Knicks, for being such an irreprehensible human being that nobody wants to be around. You literally had 2-3 stars that were dying to go to your damn city and play in your damn colors, and you fucked it up because you're the Sixers' best player or the best person for the Sixers. So thank you.
Gotcha.
Do you have anything to add, Andre?
I mean, I just had that one sponsor that, but I guess, right now I don't have really something to add right now.
Okay. Well, I'm looking at your sign behind you, and it says Sapipa instead of Adidas.
Yeah.
Upside down, it looks like Sapipa. So we're sponsored by Sapipa. It's a great day to be a Sixers fan, a Eagles fan. We wish you all the best. Thanks for stopping by, and have a good one.
Yo, JawnZone.
JawnZone in the books. Thanks again.